Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. The election is now less than 3 weeks away. Later, we'll hear from Democratic 6th District Congressional nominee Randy Cravens. That's ahead. But first, we're going to meet Lexington's fire chief at a very critical time. It is Fire Prevention Month, and Lexington is also assisting in the aftermath of hurricanes. The Lexington Fire Department has to keep a committed workforce that is highly trained and motivated. The fire department runs EMS in the city. That keeps them on the move. New areas are popping up. The city has agreed to more development. So how are they planning for that? Joining us today is Chief Jason Wells. Chief, thanks for coming. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
First of all, tell us about your journey to chief. You've been at the fire department a long time, and it's a legacy for you.
It is. I'm really consider myself incredibly honored. I was able to join the fire department in 1996, so I've got just a little less than 29 years on, and I'm second generation. My father was on the job. He didn't retire until 2009, so our careers did overlap for a while, and I consider that to be one of my greatest honors, and certainly he was an incredible mentor to me, and still is to this day.
You've seen a lot in 29 years, a lot of growth in the city, right?
The city is far different. Our population is considerably greater now than it was, and our organization has continued to evolve and develop, and that's something that I'm very proud of.
How is the Lexington Fire Department assisting with the situations with the hurricanes Helene and Milton?
Well, we currently have 4 of our members that are deployed. One member has deployed as part of the Kentucky Incident Management Team, and he at most recent check was still assisting in North Carolina with sort of the oversight of a lot of the efforts that were happening there. And then we have 3 of our members who are also members of Ohio Task Force 1 who are deployed now down in Florida for Hurricane Milton.
So these are folks who train regularly with the other resources, so they're ready to go in these situations.
That's correct. They're all rostered up and ready to go.
How important is it to you that you're able to reach out and help other communities in a time of need?
Well, we know that we are extremely fortunate here. We are resource heavy as far as our folks, and then we have, I will partially say, that we have one of the finest training programs anywhere in the country, and our members are extremely well trained, and so to be able to utilize that training to help people across the country, I think is very important. I think that's part of our greater responsibility.
You assisted in Kentucky in both the tornadoes in western Kentucky and the flooding in eastern Kentucky, right?
That's correct, and we are ready to go at a moment's notice. As long as we have the adequate resources to protect Lexington, then whatever we can do to assist our neighbors, we are more than happy to do.
That's an assessment you have to make on the fly, right?
It is. Yeah. It all happens very quickly. Those disasters don't give you much warning, and so when those requests come in, we have to do a quick assessment, and then we'll typically send out a notification and identify what resources we have available, and then send those.
October is Fire Prevention Month. We also know the weather is changing, sort of right on the cue. A lot of folks will be turning their heat on, maybe for the first time. What are some things, Chief, to keep in mind?
Well, Fire Prevention Month has been going on for right at 100 years now. Actually, in 1922, the National Fire Protection Administration started recognizing it, and then I believe it was President Coolidge, maybe in 1925, that actually recognized it. So it really highlights the importance of preparing and preventing these fires. So we want to make sure that we are carrying that legacy on. We want to utilize this time when the public is really paying attention to highlight fire safety. And one of the things that we have been very diligent about is smoke alarms. And I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. Smoke alarms are such a simple, inexpensive tool that can truly make the difference between life and death. And our mission is to make sure that every residence in Fayette County has functioning smoke alarms, and we'll continue to beat the pavement until we ensure that they do. And we will provide those free of charge. If you're not capable of purchasing one, or you're not capable of installing it, or you just have questions about whether or not it's done correctly, please contact us. Individuals can do that through our website, through lexingtonky.gov. They can email lfd-communityservices.com at lexingtonkentucky.gov, and or they can call 859-231-5662 and schedule an appointment.
You'll actually come and put them in for people.
We will come and we will put them in, absolutely.
Other things to keep in mind, things not to do, or things to do
Sure.
to prevent fires.
Well, you know, we know that across the country, the number one cause of home fires is cooking, and so we always want to make sure that people understand what the proper safe cooking techniques are, not to leave your food unattended, not to leave open flames unattended, how to deal with a grease fire, cover, smother, not use water. But also, folks need to recognize that the number one cause of home fire deaths is smoking materials. So making sure that any smoking materials are completely extinguished, that lighters stay out of the hands of young people, and that's a tragedy that can usually simply be averted.
You reach down to even elementary students in schools. Is it sometimes that the things that they learn and go home and sort of teach their parents that can help make a difference?
Well, you know, that's the impetus behind our Junior Fire Chief program. So every year across the county, we hold an essay and poster contest, and then we select one fifth grader somewhere in Fayette County, and that individual is our junior fire chief for the next year, and that person is able to go out and really touch their peers in a way that I think sometimes we can't, and so that's really important, and then those young people are taking that message home and spreading it with their families.
We've seen some reporting that some modern buildings are more likely to burn quicker than some of the older buildings because of some of the materials being used today. Is that a concern?
That's 100% accurate. So, you know, one of the things that gets said a lot is that home fires are down. And in the last 10 years, we have seen a 4% decrease across the country in home fires. However, what you don't often hear is that there has been a 1% increase in home fire fatalities in the last 10 years. And so why is that? And I think it boils down to what we have in our homes. So the materials that you and I perhaps grew up with in our homes were more natural fibers, more wood-based, where today it's far more plastics and synthetic materials that burn at a much faster, much hotter rate. And we know that when a smoke alarm sounds today with modern furnishings, you have less than 2 minutes to escape your home. And it's unheard of for those of us who have, you know, seen traditional campfires grow or that type of thing, but it happens so quickly. So it just really drives home the importance of working smoke alarms and then knowing your exit plan and getting out as quickly as you can.
Got to move.
You have to move.
Right.
Yeah.
How busy is the Lexington Fire Department, and especially given that you do the EMS runs in this city as well, which you say works well?
Yes, I think it works incredibly well. It prevents redundancy of resources, and it ensures that our residents have capable resources very close to them at any given time, so it allows us to get to our residents quickly. We are a busy organization. We are a growing community, as you mentioned, and we well know. We make just shy of about 17,000 fire calls per year, and well over 50,000 EMS calls per year, and so we were, I think, just under 70,000 total calls for service in 2023, and I anticipate that we'll be approaching that 70,000 call per service mark next year.
Some people may wonder why, when there's a med run, sometimes a fire engine arrives
Sure.
on scene first.
Absolutely, and that's a great question. It's a frequent question that we get. So all of our firefighters are trained at least to the EMT basic level, and a good portion of probably 2/3 of our department now are paramedics as well. So, and those folks are interspersed amongst our ladder companies, engine companies, and ambulances. So we have 23 engine companies in Lexington, 7 ladder companies, and 12 frontline ambulances. And so in case of emergency, there's a far greater chance that you would have an engine or a ladder close to you as opposed to the ambulances, which stay extremely, extremely busy. So if you're having a life-threatening emergency, the most important thing is to get that life-saving help to you quickly. So a cardiac event, for example, if we can get you a fire engine in 3 minutes and the ambulance may take 5 or 6 or 7, we want to go ahead and initiate those life-saving activities quickly, and then the ambulance will be there to transport.
You have Kentucky's first accredited fire-based paramedic program, and you say that's going well, and it's it takes about 10 months or so?
It does. Yeah. It's about a 10-month-long process, yeah. And we are, across the country and across the state of Kentucky, there is a paramedic shortage. And I won't say that we're immune to that, but we're certainly a little bit insulated from that because we do have the ability to train our own paramedics in-house. And so again, about 2/3 of our members will opt to go to paramedic class after they complete their probationary year, receive that additional education, and really makes us stronger as an organization.
You are, though, always looking to recruit.
Of course.
And you've got to keep that, as I said, motivated workforce ready to go. How do you do that? If people are interested, how do they, and what are the requirements?
Sure. So we hire between 19 and 34 years old, and you have to have a high school diploma, but beyond that, we're looking for individuals who have a high level of integrity and desire to make a difference in their community. There's no great standard or class or anything like that. We just want good people who want to help others, and so we do have a recruiting and hiring bureau. They can be identified on our website, and they would be more than happy to walk individuals through the process of filling out a position interest form, how to prepare for the exams, and then what it takes to join our team.
And you have an increasingly diverse firefighting force, right?
Absolutely, we do, and I think that's been very intentional on our part. It's important to us that we represent the community that we serve, and I think everybody that comes from a different background, regardless of what that background is, brings something to the table that helps us serve our community.
As the city grows, and we now have seen that there is going to be areas added, there will be areas added to the urban service boundary. There will be more development. It's coming. Is the fire department in on the planning for that?
We are. We have been in discussions with the city as these things are taking place. Really, we have worked hard internally to be far more data informed, and so we are looking closely at what's the density of this particular area going to be. Can we absorb that density with the resources that we have, or will it require us to add a fire station or an engine company here, a ladder company here? So we're doing a lot of crunching of numbers to try to make sure that we're adequately protecting the community.
Are there right now some long runs that concern you?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see those engines going sometimes a long distance to respond, right?
Certainly there are, and our stations are planned out, but then a call occurs, and that takes that engine company away, and then another call occurs over here, and so there's an engine coming from a little farther distance. So it's impossible to plan for all contingencies, but it's really, really important that we are deep enough that we always have resources available to get to the emergencies that our folks have.
One more area folks may not know about: you investigate arsons at the fire department and have power of arrest, right?
Yes, that's correct. We do have a couple of our arson investigators are certified law enforcement and have the ability to make arrests, and all of our investigators are trained up in origin and cause investigation, and we also work closely with the police department. I don't want to make it sound like we don't have a great partnership there, because it does take a team.
Chief, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. I know you've got to ramp up for fall and winter now, and that is a whole new thing. The holidays is a busy time.
It is. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, sir.
Chief Jason Wells for the Lexington Fire Department. Now we're coming back in just a moment with the Democratic nominee for Congress in Central Kentucky, Randy Cravens, as Kentucky Newsmakers continues. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers from WKYT. The election now about 3 weeks away. Voters are focusing on their decisions now. Near the top of the ballot will be races for the U.S. House. And in the 6th District in central Kentucky, the nominees are Republican incumbent Andy Barr and Democratic challenger Randy Cravens. Barr's spokesperson told us the congressman's schedule in the district would preclude him from appearing here before the election. Barr is scheduled to join us in late November. With us today is Democratic candidate Randy Cravens, who has been campaigning hard after winning his party's nomination in May. It is unclear how much traction he's gotten. Randy Cravens is joining us now. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill.
Congressman Barr appears confident enough in his prospects of winning that he has declined our invitation to appear here. He has also not agreed to debates with you. Do you believe his confidence is warranted?
I don't. I believe, in fact, that instead of confidence, that you're actually experiencing Congressman Barr's arrogance. There's no reason in such a consequential time for our nation right now, when we're facing multiple disasters, that the people of the 6th Congressional District should not have a venue in which to see and hear the feelings of their congressional representative, be that on the debate stage or in a forum such as this. It's disappointing, but it's not at all surprising given Congressman Barr's track record.
It's sometimes said that money is speech in campaigns. Has your effort been adequately funded to get your message out?
It has, Bill, and really, after all is said and done, win or lose, that's one thing that I really want to focus on, is the impact of money in these congressional races and races writ large. The weight of funding in judging the viability of a candidate has become so outsized and off kilter, not only in Kentucky but across the nation, that we're scaring off candidates that would be very well suited to contest these races on both the Republican and the Democratic side. Right now, I am adequately funded, and I have gained an education going through this full campaign process, understanding where those funds actually go, whether it's to consultants, advertising, or otherwise. And I believe that there's some modifications that could be made.
What issues show the most contrast between you and Congressman Andy Barr?
They're numerous and varied. I think there's no greater example of that than over the last week, or 2 weeks actually, in the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and now Milton down in Florida and in North Carolina and Georgia and South Carolina. Congressman Barr hasn't made a public statement and hasn't made a public social media post about those incidents, the response to those incidents, his feelings for the people of our neighboring states. But he has had time to make posts about Israel, Taiwan, and it gives a little pause to think that in the face of such crisis that he would think of the international community first and not Kentucky.
You have said you believe in mandatory federal gun owner and firearm registration, as well as mandatory insurance for gun owners and restoring a federal assault weapons ban. Do you think that matches the will of the people in the 6th District?
I think it's a good compromise. If you match exactly the will of any one person in this varied district, if you go from the urban center to the rural outlying areas, you're going to be doing a disservice to the others. A good compromise would include respecting the Second Amendment, which allows for a well-regulated right to have firearms. That regulation can include those measures, such as mandatory insurance, to ensure that there is compensation for victims of gun violence, and to ensure that there is a private industry that can apply pressure where maybe government has issues doing so.
On health care, you've called for getting private insurance companies out of the Medicare system. So you would seek some changes in the Affordable Care Act, right?
Well, more so on the Medicare system directly, rather than programs that are available through the healthcare exchange. So the difference there being is that in Medicare, you have a classic Medicare system which, when well funded, is very functional and very appropriate for the vast majority of people in the 6th Congressional District. There is some bifurcation as far as what programs cover which services and prescription drugs, things of that nature. We do need to make the additions that Vice President Harris has suggested as far as home health care goes. And And those are perfectly adequately served by the government and by government administration of Medicare. The involvement of private industry and private healthcare companies in the Medicare Advantage plans, I think, though it gives the name of an advantage, is actually doing a disservice to the senior population of the 6th District.
And does that include the pharmacy benefit managers, this kind of...
Absolutely. PBMs, or pharmacy benefit managers, are the middlemen between the drug manufacturers and the end consumers, or your local pharmacy, are basically playing a shell game with the federal funds that they receive, and in doing so inflate the price of drugs to apply artificial rebates. Mark Cuban, who has run Cost Plus Drugs through his own name, has circumvented this process for the private individual market, and has done so to great success, reducing prescription drug benefits or prescription drug prices by 70 to 80% on some prescriptions. The fact that we could pass that sort of savings along at those levels to our Medicare subscribers and to the federal government unlocks a world of possibilities for the additional services that we could offer our seniors.
Mr. Cravens, you've taken a pro-choice stance on abortion, and you go beyond that and call for restrictions on government seeking access to medical information.
Certainly. It is the worst nightmare of anyone, and this is an issue that goes beyond the issue of abortion, which is so critical to the folks across the country in the light of Roe falling. We do need to restore access to abortion and reasonable exceptions in states where that is not possible right now. But beyond that, we need to restrict the access of government officials from reaching into the private health records of individuals. Government doesn't have any responsibility or any need to know what I go see my doctor about. I'm empowered by myself, my creator, to care for myself and for my family, and I feel that I should be able to take care of that without government intervention.
The Farm Bill has typically been redone every 5 years. Last year, Congress couldn't get all that together and instead extended it to 2018. Now it has expired as of September 30th. 80% of that money is allocated to food and infant programs. Do you have concerns that there is no Farm Bill right now?
I think everyone in the 6th District should have concerns about that. And it's, again, just yet another example of inaction by a Congress which was so ineffective in the preceding months of this session. Congressman Barr, at his leisure, could call Speaker Johnson and say that we need to return to Washington to address these issues. For better or for worse, a bill, an up and down vote, needs to be taken on the Farm Bill to get it passed. If compromise needs to be made, then that compromise needs to be made. There are much more important things right now at this critical juncture than Congress taking a vacation when nutrition and the livelihood of so many children and so many vulnerable communities are in jeopardy.
Here at WKYT, we've surveyed voters and found the economy is a top of mind, a top of interest and concern. What policies might you pursue in Congress that you feel might help bring down prices and put voters more at ease?
Well, Bill, I think the important thing is to not get too involved as a Congress. When we look at the macroeconomic picture right now, we do have inflation that's slowing down. It's come under 3%, and the projections are that will remain the case for the near to midterm future. I hope that is the case because it has made things a lot easier for folks around the 6th District when it comes to their salaries and their hourly pay starting to catch back up to prices. We're seeing grocery prices today that are largely similar than they were in 2019, pre-pandemic. That's eased the burden of some folks, but we still have massive issues with housing and the exploding costs there that can be addressed through congressional action. But on a macroeconomic level, I think the less intervention from Congress in the macro economy is better.
Let me go back on the housing.
Sure.
What do you mean? Congress could do what?
Well, as I've stated before and have been a proponent of for housing, is getting a handle on the involvement of private equity or large corporations in the acquisition of large amounts of housing stock. Our single-family home buyers are priority one when it comes to attaining housing, and they should always be priority one. What we're seeing now in Kentucky and across the country is a continuation of a trend that started in the middle of the pandemic, where private equity, looking for gains that they needed that were fleeting in other parts of the economy, started acquiring large numbers of housing units and using those as rental properties or short-term rentals, and it's just served to inflate the prices and make it more and more difficult for folks to get into their first home.
You would set a limit then on
Absolutely, yeah. There has to be a limit of some form, and there has to be graduated taxation if necessary to accommodate any breach of that limit or any seek to breach that limit.
A few seconds left. How will you spend the next 2.5, 3 weeks trying to get your voters interested in your campaign?
It is getting the word out to everyone that I possibly can. We're setting up a couple of town hall events, one of which will be in Lexington, hopefully to incorporate some of our local and state candidates to allow them some visibility as well, and getting our advertising buys out there. We have kept our powder dry, and it's time to use it, and we intend to and hopefully get the message out to all of those that we have a viable option for a new Congress.
Randy Cravens, Democratic candidate for Congress, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We'll be back, wrap up Kentucky Newsmakers in a moment.
You guys and with the others as well.
Yeah.
And
Before we go, a reminder, you can stay with WKYT, and we'll continue to cover the campaign on air and online at WKYT.com and on our WKYT News app. That is Kentucky Newsmakers for this week. Thank you for joining us. You make it a good week ahead.